Hi, I'm coming off the timeline now.
Gotcha. I only put you there.
Okay, thank you.
Your model. Angie makes it easy to get the job done. Okay. And your next project offline. Download the free Angie mobile app today or visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com. WCPT 820 is proud to introduce Heartland Signal, a multimedia newsroom of WCPT 820. Heartland Signal is dedicated to providing news coverage for the 2022 midterms in the Midwest region. At heartlandsignal.com, you can find all the day's news and views to keep you informed and up to date. If you love listening to WCPT 820, then you'll love getting your news from heartlandsignal.com. Visit us there today. Parents, we know we can't protect our kids from everything. Eventually, they're going to bump their heads or scrape their knees. But we can protect them from 6 types of cancer. HPV, or human papillomavirus, is a common preventable virus that can cause cancer later in life. The HPV vaccine prevents human papillomavirus and all the cancers it can cause. The American Cancer Society recommends getting your sons and daughters the HPV vaccine starting at age 9 to protect them later in life. Greetings. These attacks immediately. The ban on Russian oil imports. Daniel, confirmation. Yeah. News that happens next will happen on WCPT 820. This is news. I'm Rita Foley. The House Committee investigating the Capitol insurrection is asking the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas to appear. The panel wants to hear from Virginia Thomas. Conservative activist is the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. Ginny Thomas communicated with people in then-President Donald Trump's orbit ahead of the attack and on the day of the insurrection. Chairman Betty Thompson says it's time for her to come talk, but the investigators discovered references to her in communications relating to lawyer John Eastman, advising Trump on possible challenges to the 2020 election results. Thomas tells the conservative news site Daily Caller she can't wait to clear up this deception. Then Thomas, Washington. Yesterday, the January 6th committee laid out the pressure then-President Trump put on Vice President Pence to invalidate Joe Biden's White House win. President Biden says the past 2 years have been rough on Americans, and he knows that. He talked to the AP's Josh Roke in the Oval Office. The president says the country is still dealing with the psychological scars from the pandemic. Added to that are gas prices at nominal records. All of that has set up a dynamic where he says we need to remind Americans who have confidence. He looks at the jobs, he looks at the unemployment rate, and we see a country that is in a better position than the rest of the world. Should Ukraine be admitted to the European Union? The EU's executive arm is now recommending Ukraine be granted candidate status, the first step on the road toward membership. We don't yet know why, but a gunman opened fire in a small group meeting at a church in Vestavia Hills, Alabama last night, killing 2 people and injuring a third. Police took the suspect into custody. You couldn't stay up late enough to watch last night? The Golden State Warriors are the NBA champions. This is AP News. Traveling this summer may not be as easy as you hope. The AP's Norman Hall.
Airlines canceled more than 1,500 flights in the U.S. on Thursday, one of the worst days yet for travel as the peak summer vacation season heats up. On the same day that airline CEOs held a virtual meeting with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, airlines canceled more than 1,500 flights in the U.S. According to the tracking service FlightAware, more than one-third of all flights were scrubbed in New York LaGuardia, and more than one-fourth of flights were dropped in nearby Newark Liberty. The meeting came on the heels of about 2,800 flight cancellations around the Memorial Day holiday weekend and just ahead of July 4th. Airlines were asked about their summer preparations. They are struggling with a shortage of workers. Pilot unions say their airlines were too slow to replace pilots who retired and took leave of absence during the early part of the pandemic. Norman Hall, Washington.
And I'm Rita Foley, AP News.
Okay. Let me say hello to the pastor, Pastor Tish. Pastor Tish.
Yeah, Pastor Williams, are there? Okay.
Okay.
You were able to hear, right?
No, not at all.
You're in the airport, it's 20
No.
minutes. Let me lower the automatics.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right.
Pastor Tisha?
Yes.
Okay, now I can hear you. Great, thank you. Just give me one moment. Sorry, hon, I'm just on my last minute prep. Okay. Whew. Okay.
15 seconds.
Thank you. Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show today. How you doing? Hope that you are having a great day. Hope that you're going to be joining me at the Rainbow Push International Conference beginning tomorrow, the 18th through the 22nd. It's going to be a great conference, and I want you to be there. You need to be there. It's going to be a lot of great information for you there. We're going to have a Facebook summit. Facebook is actually going to come in and teach a free class to you if you come, so that you can learn how to use Meta and maximize your experience there. We're going to have Attorney Barbara Arnwine. Indeed, we're going to have Pete Buttigieg, the Transportation Secretary, help us to kick things off. And so we want you to be there. We need you to be there, and you need to be there. It's free. And we're going to be at Rainbow Push tomorrow. Going to be a fabulous celebration. Of course, Facebook will be there tomorrow. But then we're going to be at the South Shore Cultural Center Sunday through the 22nd, and you should be there. Hope to see you there, because I will be. And of course, remember everybody, vote, vote, vote. Our primaries are coming up here in Chicago and Illinois, June 28th. Not enough of us know about these primaries, and now finally some of these candidates in the 1st Congressional District are going to call me back. Thank you. I'm Santita Jackson. This is WCPT 820. The nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today. I want you to meet my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook and on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. I want you to meet Philip and Jewel and Linda and Andre. Well, Linda, Andre, and Philip are over on YouTube. Get on over there, everybody. Shirley from beautiful Philadelphia and Mark from fabulous DC. They are on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. And Eric is coming out there from LA. I love it. Dawn, how you doing? From LA. Love it. Continue to tell all the people in LA about it. Might be out there in a few weeks. How about that? Ashley from Memphis and Renee Brown. How you doing, everybody? Let me know where you are. Then I'm waiting for Matt to come in from AM 950 Radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Hey, Jewel up there in New York, and Barbara Bacon out there in Oak Park. Sending you all so much love, and thank you for the reminder, Jewel. Go to vote.org to find out if your names have been kicked off of the voter rolls. You need to make sure that you're still registered to vote. And you can also go to vote.org. Thank you, Attorney Darrell Jones, for letting us know that you can go there and find out where you need to go vote. In Chicago, 73 polling sites have been closed, impacting almost 120,000 voters. They might not know where to go vote. So go to vote.org so that you can find out. Today, we're going to be talking about the January 6th hearings. They have really been explosive. And I want to know what you think about. Uh, what do you think about them? What do you think about Mike Pence's role, former Vice President Mike Pence's role? He could have refused to certify the election, which would have thrown us into not just a constitutional crisis. Many feared that it would throw us into a full-blown revolution because people all over the streets, not just in D.C. but all over the country, were at the ready. Uh, Remember, you had a kidnapping plot driven largely by the FBI, but nonetheless, it was a kidnapping plot of Governor Whitmer up in Michigan, and doubtless others that we don't know about. And even Mike Pence refused to leave with the Secret Service. Now, mind you, I'm sure that he was standing in service to his country, but he also, as an insider, could not trust anyone who told him to do anything. Let's think about that. I want you to tell me what you think. Why do you think Mike Pence wouldn't leave with the Secret Service? 773 763 9278 773 773 763 9278 773 763 9278. I would not have left with them either. And I've lived with the Secret Service, and I'm going to tell you, some of them are wonderful. My father's details were great. They were wonderful people. But I kind of had my eye out. We'll talk about that later. Hey, everybody, June 18th through the 22nd, the Rainbow Push Coalition International Conference. In Chicago, things are calming down. 80 degrees, although it feels very warm right now, partly cloudy. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 85 degrees, sunny. The Dow closed down 2.4%. The NASDAQ closed down 4.08%, and the S&P 500 closed down 3.25%. These are not good numbers, everybody. When you close down 1%, that's massive. 2, 3, 4, that's a lot. Well, guess what? We are the champions. At least that is what the Golden State Warriors are saying. 7 championships in 8 years. And everyone, don't forget Mark Jackson. Remember, he really shaped this team before they got a new coach. And so my hat goes off to the Golden State Warriors, NBA champions, once again. 103-90 over the Celtics, but the Celtics had a great run. And so we'll see how this bodes going forward in the coming years. Will they be a real rivalry? White Sox will be playing the Astros tonight, as they will be playing the Astros again tomorrow. Atlanta will be here in Chicago, and they will be in Chicago for another game tomorrow. And the Twins will be playing the Diamondbacks, and they'll be doing that again tomorrow. The Lynx will be playing the Aces, and the Dreams will be playing our Sky here in Chicago. And the Sky will be playing the Fever over the weekend. So a lot of great WNBA action, everybody. The House Select Committee investigating the Capitol insurrection used Thursday's hearing to detail how former President Donald Trump tried to pressure his Vice President Mike Pence to join his scheme, according to the CNN report, to overthrow the presidential election, and how Vice President Mike Pence's refusal put his life at risk as rioters called for his hanging on January 6, 2021. People are calling this certifiably crazy, this kind of scheme. But what do you think about that? Had Pence obeyed Trump, said a retired federal judge, quote, America would immediately have been plunged into what would have been tantamount to a revolution within a paralyzing constitutional crisis. What do you think about that? Are you going to pay more attention to the hearings? It's galvanized a lot of our attention, everybody. And now, former President Trump's lawyer, John Eastman, took a verbal beating during the hearing. He's the controversial lawyer who unsuccessfully pressed Mike Pence to overturn the results of the 2020 election. And he took center stage yesterday. He emerged in the weeks between the 2020 election and the January 6th riots as one of the most influential voices in President Trump's circle, pushing the dubious claim that the vice president had the authority to reject electors and determine the election winner independently. He was getting advice, everybody. He was getting advice. Now the January 6th committee is seeking testimony from Jenny Thomas. That's right, the prominent conservative activist who is the wife of Justice Clarence Thomas, the senior statesman on the court. She corresponded with John Eastman. According to sources, there are many emails between the two of them. Indeed, she says she looks forward to, quote, looks forward to, close quote, talking to the January 6th committee to, quote, clear up misconceptions, close quote. What do you think about that? Now, more and more people are calling for Justice Thomas to resign. Indeed, there is a New York Times report in which it has been cited that there were, quote, heated fights, close quote, among justices over the election suits. So this is not something that just happened in isolation. This is something that plunged the court into crisis. Think about that, everybody. The European Commission is expected to offer its opinion today that Ukraine should be considered a candidate to join the European Union. Ukrainian President Zelensky officially applied for the country to join the EU 4 days after Russian forces invaded in February. All right, everybody. And House Democrats are urging President Biden to work with Cuba to vaccinate the world. Cuba's goal of vaccinating people in low-income countries offers an important opportunity, it has been said, for our nations to work together once again on urgent health care issues facing the world. Indeed, Cuba is known for exporting doctors, not weapons. Indeed, they have doctors, it has been reported, on every block in the country. Absolutely. So let's go to Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, the author of I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis. I See You, Sis. I love it. I love it. I love it. I See You, Sis. That's right. Go to Amazon and get it. It's a fantastic book. Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams, I need some good news today. Things are so crazy, maybe. You know what? I don't know if it's crazy. I don't know if it's crazy as much as it is. A lot of things that we have suspected down through the years, they're being revealed now. And not suspected things that we've seen that people did not believe. Oh, you've got to be kidding. No. When Mike Pence does not go with the Secret Service, perhaps he was thinking about Jackie Kennedy, who watched her husband's head get blown off right next to her. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Perhaps he was thinking about that. Perhaps he understands coups and how they work. And if I leave here, first of all, I don't know who's on whose side. I don't know. So, I mean, and that's really the depth of the crisis, January 6th, everybody. So it's something that we all have to pay attention to, wherever you are, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or an independent. And this is why on Christ, the solid rock I stand. And for those of you who are not of this particular persuasion, if you're Buddhist, if you're Jewish, if you're Muslim, you've got to be able to hold on to something bigger, better, and gooder than yourself, the ultimate good. You got to, because you can see anything can happen, and if you depend upon humankind, if you depend upon man, you're going to float away. Enough of my preaching for the day. Whew, too much.
Well, you're right in line with what I want to talk about today. With Sunday being Father's Day, I want to talk about God, our Father.
Thank you.
A few years ago, a German scholar was doing research in New Testament literature and discovered that in the entire history of Judaism and all existing books of the Old Testament and all the existing books of extra-biblical Jewish writings dating from the beginning of Judaism all the way until the 10th century AD in Italy, there's not a single reference of a Jewish person addressing God directly in the first person as Father. There were appropriate forms of address that were used by Jewish people in the Old Testament, and the children were trained to address God in proper phrases of respect. All of these titles were memorized. The term Father was not among them. The first Jewish rabbi to call God Father directly was Jesus of Nazareth. Isn't that interesting? It was a radical departure from tradition. And in fact, in every recorded prayer we have from the lips of Jesus, save one, he calls God Father. It was for that reason that many of Jesus' enemies sought to destroy him. He assumed to have this intimate personal relationship with the sovereign God of heaven and the creator of all things, that he dared to speak in such intimate terms with God. What was even more radical is that Jesus says to his people, when you pray, you say, our Father. Jesus gave us permission, gave us the right and the privilege to come into the presence and the majesty of God and address God as Father, because God is indeed our Father. God adopted us into his family and made us co-heirs with his only begotten Son. And I know this seems really basic today, but when was the last time you really remembered and regarded God as your Father, with all the rights and privileges of what it means to be the child of God? And as we talk about Father's Day, I've come to realize over the years and through relationship with God, Santita, that God is not only our Father, but God is a good Father.
Yes.
When we think about all the traits of a great parent, God has every single one of them. And so we talk about our world being upside down, our world being crazy, and things coming to fruition that we never could have imagined. Isn't it good to know that we have the stability of a good father? 11 traits of a great parent. First of all, parents are patient. Who's more patient with their children than God? This has to be at the top of the list. As God's children, we're messy, we're noisy, we don't listen well, we're exasperated. God, it says at one point it grieves God to make man, and yet God is patient with us. God has extraordinary multitasking skills. God doesn't only feed you, God feeds you, God clothes you, God makes ways for you to pay your bills, God heals you. God is a multitasking parent. God is encouraging. We learn a lot about ourselves and worry, or how to worry or not, because of the opinions of others. But all that matters today is the opinion of God. And God says you're the head and not the tail. You are above and not beneath. Thank God for an encouraging Father. God is supported. Wherever you go, I will be with you. Encouragement and support go hand in hand. We need the support of God in order to grow in our faith. God is intelligent. He is the all-wise God. One of the hallmarks of intelligence is problem solving. And don't we go to God with all of our problems in hopes that they will be solved? And they are. God not only has the answers, but God provides us with the resources and the tools that we need to be intelligent as well. We thank God today for a flexible Father. Many of our attempts at parenting fail, but aren't we glad today for a God who is flexible enough to not only give us a solution to one problem, but to multiple problems? A God that says, I'll close windows and doors. We thank God for a flexible Father. We thank God for leadership, Father. A Father who's not a dictator, but gives us a choice. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. What does that mean? That means we have a Father who doesn't push, but a Father who leads us in the right path. Dependability. Children feel safe when they have reliable and dependable parents. I depend on God. You can depend on God. And compassionate. We need, as we develop in our faith, to experience compassion. Not only criticism, but compassion. We thank God for a Father who is compassionate. We thank God for Jesus, who is not void or is not ignorant of the things that it means to be on this earth. And a sense of humor. We all know you want to make God laugh. Tell God about your plans. God has a sense of humor. Just when we think it's over, God comes in with another solution or another person or another resources, and we say, oh God, you are funny. And self-awareness. No one is more self-aware than God. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. In the beginning, God created. And it's that self-awareness that pours into us where we can confidently say, we are children of God. And so today, we're grateful for the stability and the strength of our Father. And that's the good news.
Oh, amen. Amen. And I give a shout out to all fathers today. All fathers. All fathers. You know, they are, I don't care what your color is, almost the forgotten parent. And you need them so desperately in ways that show up on you much later on in your life. Really, really, really. And I thank God for my daddy today. I thank God for my father God. And I thank God for my daddy, who waited tables to feed me when he was in college, because I'm the eldest. And I was born when my parents didn't even have a home, okay? And always made me feel welcome. On my worst days, he always made me feel like I was the best thing that ever happened to him. And I want to thank him for that. I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for that powerful message. I love you, Pastor Tisha Dixon Williams. Everybody, get the book. I see you, sis. Oh gosh, to be seen. And stay right here because we've got a beautiful sister who got a tremendous new position. Tremendous new position. Our own Dr. Shanina Knighton at Hey Dr. Nina. At Hey Dr. Nina. Everybody go there on social media. At Hey Dr. Nina. Dr. Shanina Knighton. We only have about 4 or 5 minutes before we have to run to break. Actually 4. So you tell me, what do you want us to know in this weekend? I'm about to go into a convention, Dr. Shanina Knighton. Is there anything that you want me to know? Because I really don't want to walk around with gloves and 3 or 4 masks on indoors, even though the doors will be open at this place that's a cultural center that sits on the lake. But still, and ceilings are 40, 50 feet high. I don't know, several stories high. And what should we be doing? Because people are going to baseball games, they're going to the NHL playoffs, to the finals of the Stanley Cup finals. What should we be doing? WNBA is playing this weekend. People are still in the mix, but Dr. Fauci's got COVID.
Gotcha. Well, I'm going to start with you at this convention, okay? So one of the things that's important about the convention is to really understand what protocols do they already have in place. Are they requesting people tests? Are they asking people to, provide negative results within 2 to 3 days of attending the conference, which again are not elimination measures, they're just decreasing or mitigation measures, right? Mm-hmm. So that would be one, is to understand what kind of precautions are they taking. Are they just letting people come and just saying, hey, we don't really care about the protocols? If that is the case, then you have to also understand what is happening at that event. Meaning, yes, windows will be open, but in terms of restaurants, are we still talking about closed in spaces with no ventilation? I will make sure that I wear masks in those settings. I will make sure that I'm practicing hand hygiene in those settings. I would also be conscious of, things that my hands touch, even something as simple as touching the automated button inside of the bathroom stall that they're going to touch, that you're going to touch before you come out. And there's more reasons why you should be cleaning your hands thoroughly for 20 to 25 seconds and clean after going into a bathroom and touching the stall button and coming back out. But more so because we know a lot of people are going to touch those buttons. The other piece is at conventions, typically there is networking. I still have a pet peeve of people still not clear of why the handshaking still continues to prevail. I understand culturally we have established that it is courtesy, it is respect. However, doing elbowing someone is much more safe because in that particular instance, you don't have to worry about what's on their hands. And then respectfully, you're keeping them safe because if you're already unmasked and both of you are eating, you then have to think about the fact that, yes, while you both are eating, you're now then shaking everyone else's hands. So you're eating carrots, you're eating broccoli, and eating finger foods in between handshakes, and you're not cleaning your hands. You're still taking everyone's germs and you're putting it directly into your mouth. So to me, those are the main 2 components, is to make sure that people are cleaning their hands when they are networking. It is to also come up with a mechanism that people understand, just to say, hey, we're eating, so, hope that you take this as still a form of greeting. But, I want to make sure that I'm keeping my hands safe and your hands safe. So that is a protective measure just in itself, Santita. And as you hear me, my messaging is around hand hygiene. But even more important, it's about awareness. It's about being aware of your surroundings and knowing how to use the tools we were given.
That is great news, everybody, and pay attention to that. I have about 50 seconds, literally. I keep bumping into people who are coming into buildings unmasked, and they'll look at you and say, look, because I'm masked, hey, I'm fully vaxxed and boosted. What do you say to them? 30 seconds.
I would still continue to say that infection prevention measures are for all, and that we should all assume that we all have it. We should all assume that in order for us to protect ourselves, we need to be attracting and doing more than one method. meaning that when we wear masks, we are wearing it to protect ourselves and to protect others. And when we are cleaning our hands, it is to protect ourselves and to protect others. So if we actually use the godly approach of taking care of our brothers and sisters and then taking care of us, then we will focus more on how we can help each other and protect each other, opposed to selfishness and saying to ourselves, oh, well, I got vaccinated, and oh, I got a mask, so I'm safe. That is not the correct approach to say when we are trying to keep others safe, because we have to remember you can still carry it in your nose, you can still carry it in your mouth, and you can still carry it on your hands, even though your sister may be protected. Thank you.
Mic drop on that. And big shout out to Joan Esposito, my sister at WCPT. She has gotten over COVID. And thank you, Paula, for the reminder. Her son is getting married tomorrow. God bless you, Joan, and your family. So glad that she's over COVID. I'm with you, Paula, so that she can attend the wedding. Let's talk about Jimmy Thomas. Let's talk about the hearings. What do you make of the fact that Mike Pence, Vice President Pence, would not go with the Secret Service? He said, no, I'm going to stay at the Capitol. No, that's okay. What do you think about that? 773-763-9278. Back in just a minute. Santita Jackson Show. How are you, Dr. Knighton?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Oh, honey, I'm hanging in there. Hanging in here today. We've got a lot going on, you know? A lot going on.
Same goes with my mama's jersey this morning.
Huh?
I said I'm on mommy duty this morning, and I'm laughing because you and I both know that that's something that never it never goes away anyway.
Ever.
No deductible and no copay.
So yeah, so up with the baby this morning, making sure she get her hair done for a competition.
That's her heart. Yes, her heart.
Right. Stop that yesterday. You know that.
Girl, yeah, I know. I can't find this. Well, all right. Well, lost an essential part of what I need here. How much time do I have, Coach May?
We probably still look about I'd say 3 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
2 to 3 minutes. I also have Attorney Connolly up right now.
Oh, okay, perfect. Aaron, how you doing? Good. Well, not so good. I'm looking for something essential and I cannot find it. I'm not happy about that right now, but always something, right? I think everybody will enjoy this purse. It's not a Birkin. Oh, boy. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Yeah, what happened?
And I have Attorney Jones.
Okay, I'll be there in a hot second. Okay, just make sure that their sound is great. Have them speak.
You know, they were sounding good when I talked to them on the phone. So
Okay, I just want to make sure.
When we get on.
You know, I just want that checklist. Okay?
Yep. And then just as a heads up, we have about a minute
Okay,
left.
thank you. Always let me know when we have a minute. Thank you for that.
I'm hopping off. I'm about to get back on mommy duty.
Oh, sweetie, thank you so much for being with us here. You know we love you, Shanina. Oh, happy Father's Day to you and your wonderful husband.
Yes, I am. That's your guy. So yes, we're gonna celebrate, and I hope that you're gonna do the same.
Oh, we are working. You know how that is. But God is good. Oh, absolutely. Let's do that. This weekend's tough for me, but Late is good.
Oh, no, you got to, you won't be at the
Oh,
so
honey.
we'll catch up when we get with Ghana.
Yeah, but let's catch up over the next few days. There are a couple of things that I want to bring to your attention
Okay.
that I thought would be interesting for us to talk about. Like black women in sterilization.
Okay.
Yeah,
Talk about
yeah.
we're out topics, okay?
Okay. All right, sweetie.
All right.
Love you much. Love you, love you.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Hope to see you at the Rainbow Push International Conference, June 18th through the 22nd. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg will help kick it off. Tomorrow we will be at Rainbow Push at 930 East 50th Street, but from the 19th through the 22nd, we'll be at the South Shore Cultural Center, right here on the south side, right on the lake. So it's going to be a lot cooler. So, Paul, I hope you come on out, and everybody who's in Chicago, or if you just want to come in, it would be fantastic. We're going to talk about voting rights, Ukraine, really opening up the marketplace so that you can become an entrepreneur, so that you can understand that there are so many jobs in the world of sport, and you need to have access to them. Some of our Black-owned restaurants, Hispanic-owned restaurants, Asian restaurants, on and on and on. You need to know, you need to be able to get in on that. And of course, Meta, Facebook, will be having a free seminar tomorrow, a free seminar showing you how to use it. So there's a lot that's going to be going on, and it's all free. You will not have to pay for it. But we do need your support. Please go to rainbowpush.org and join us. All right, everybody, let's talk about these hearings. Boy, oh boy, have they been explosive. We've seen John Eastman, who was brought into the White House. He really is the president's lawyer, who really pushed the theory that the vice president had the power to certify the elections, although they did say, now, we wouldn't want Kamala Harris to do it, but we can do it. They knew that it was not legal, and he took quite the verbal beating. But we want to know what you think of it. And then, of course, Virginia Thomas, the conservative activist, very well known and highly regarded in her own right, who's also the wife of the longest-serving justice on the Supreme Court, Clarence Thomas. She had a very active role, and many people are accusing her of seditious conspiracy. What is sedition? What is insurrection? What is the big deal? Why wouldn't Mike Pence go with the Secret Service when they said, sir, we need to leave the Capitol? And he said, no, 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 no. Even with these rioters who are in the building, they were not just outside. No, no, no. Security had been breached there. They were in the building looking for him and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and AOC. They were looking for him with a noose. And he said, no, 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 I'm going to stay inside of the building. That's deep, everybody. That's a whole lot. And people saying, oh, he wanted to fulfill his duty as vice president. I believe that. I do believe that in that moment, he said, you know what, I want to do this particular way. I'm not going to get in that, because the implications of this are too broad and too deep. I believe that. I will not just give him that. I appreciate that, because a lot of people felt a lot of kind of ways about this, everybody. We can't just paint everyone with the same brush. It's not fair, and it's not true. That having been said, I think that he saw something else. If it were me, let me just tell you, I would have stayed right there too, because at that moment, you can't trust anybody. Ask Jackie Kennedy. Her husband was killed while he was sitting next to her in a car with the Secret Service in the front. But the Secret Service was supposed to have been flanking them, but they were not there. So I'd want to know, no. And if I were his wife, I would have said, we're going to stay right here. Right here. And I probably would have started streaming it on Facebook, but they probably would have interrupted it. You know how that goes. So, hey, I'm not a conspiracist. I'm just clear on plans. Plus, You guys have lived with these folks. I get it. I get it. I get it. And, many props to my father's Secret Service team, attorneys, Aaron Connolly and Daryl Jones, because they were wonderful. But the one or two persons who were hostile were removed from the detail. And you can tell, I mean, some people were, one in particular was explicitly hostile. We addressed the person from the Secret Service who oversaw the detail, and he had him removed promptly because that's a compromise in your security when you have someone who does not like you protecting you. So there's a lot here, but let me start with you, Attorney Daryl Jones. What did you see in these hearings, particularly yesterday, because it seems like they're getting particularly dicey?
Good morning, Santita. You're absolutely right. They are getting dicey, and I think that what we're beginning to see now is that we're seeing all the ants coming out of the woodwork because they realize that the ship is going down. Very interestingly, one of the big things I think to come out of it, and let me start by giving kudos to Congressman Benny Thompson, who's just done a phenomenal job of presenting the facts, the facts, and sticking to what the fact finding mission and presenting it to America. But a large part of what I think we see happening here now is just incredible. With Vice President Pence, I've never been a Vice President Pence fan. But when we got to that moment where he had to make the decision to get into the car to leave the Capitol or to stay, and his decision was to stay, and principally because he didn't know who the driver was of the car that was getting ready to take him away. And that plan was to take him away and not have him return to be able to stop the election at that point. So, a lot of credit goes to Vice President Pence for his willingness, his strength to stand and to protect the democracy. Mm-hmm. Because what was clear to me more than any other moment yesterday was that our democracy really was at a point of peril. Whatever that decision was that Vice President Pence made, it was huge. And, just the weight of it all was just incredible. Mm-hmm. It also sort of draws attention to the fact that all of our elected officials that were pushing to stay there through this process, knowing that this mob, this insurrectionist group was trying to get to them, was just a testament to their strength. It also is going to lift up and question what we as the American people remember. Because we've got to remember that there were certain, and still are, certain members of Congress that remain loyal to the president through all the junk that we saw coming through. And now it's becoming very clear just how clear it was what President Trump and his team were up against. They were remaining quiet, knowing that he was working on this insurrectionist. This is it was an incredible hearing. Let me tell you, it's going to be for generations to come to watch and study just how close this country came to losing its democracy. That's how I see it.
Aaron Connolly, what do you see?
Good morning, Santita, and thank you to Attorney Jones for that perspective. I think the thing that struck me was very similar. And I, as a Midwestern gal, have been familiar with Mike Pence for quite a while and have not been a fan, but on the policy side. However, I think what stands is the importance of character and duty in our elected officials and the difference we see between someone like Mike Pence and someone like Donald Trump, right? And that our entire foundation of our democracy can hang on that sense of duty and loyalty. Mm-hmm. And I think as we're looking at the bigger election coming up now, that's something that I hope all Americans are thinking about in the names that they see on their ballot as we're going into the primary and another general election, right? That character, that sense of duty and loyalty, and who sent you matters, right? So for Mike Pence, he is a man of staunch faith, and that has been a guiding principle for him for many his political decisions, which I think our interpretation of faith is often different. However, we saw a man who had a very clear fork in the road, and not only for his personal safety and well-being, but he knew the power that he was holding, and he chose our country over his personal interests in many ways, right? His friends had a noose. These are his people. This is his president that is calling on him to be hanged. And we're looking at headlines now that are unprecedented in our country, where folks within the administration of Donald Trump were essentially inciting mayhem and inciting these folks to commit murder in many ways. And it's crazy to think that happened. But I am so proud of Mike Pence, and I think it's really, really important as we look at the Republican primaries and the Democratic primaries, who is sending these folks to be a part of our government? Who will they be loyal to? Will they ultimately be loyal to a Trump-like dictator who creates legal arguments out of thin air, or will they be measured and studied and focused on the legacy of these choices and really the impact on all of us, not just the current personal political gain? And the differences are stark. As far as Virginia Thomas, and I think she has to be called, right? I can't see a scenario where they would let her not testify after some of these emails came out. And we see her particularly pushing this invalid, illegal argument that these electors should be replaced, particularly some of the correspondence with the Arizona legislators who, in all honesty, I'm not surprised she was pressuring them because their integrity lies on the Donald Trump side of things. But to have a woman of power, and Santita, you're correct, she is a powerful woman in her own right, not in relation to her husband at all.
No. Let me say this. Let me say this as you continue. She's powerful. He's powerful, and they're even more powerful together. See, because we always say, oh, she's her own person. You don't forget that. You're in a marriage. You're in a partnership. You're not alone anymore. You're not. So she is, that's why, the hierarchy of needs at the top is interdependence, not independence. That's a step before interdependence. Before you can become a fully functioning member of society, you need to be independent. Then the society, we can all depend upon you and you can depend upon me. So and that's why they're having the fights on the Supreme Court, Aaron. That was in the New York Times, because she's powerful, he's powerful, and she's influencing him. And oh my gosh, what?
And we have to recognize that, right? That level of influence increases. But she has her money in particular. I think that is what I'm interested to see. How much of this coup and the surrounding events were actually funded and driven by her own funds and folks that she was connecting to pay for buses of these riders to come into DC, for example. And this is not just some simple spur of the moment attack that folks were just at a rally using their free speech. We see a complex conspiracy to seize the government of the United States and make sure that Donald Trump would remain in power. And she needs to be held accountable for her role, her incitement of rallying the folks that we see in this email on the legal side of things, right? And she does have more of a legitimate position because of her partnership as well. So she needs to answer for her role, and then I'm anxious to see if we see any more information about her husband, Justice Clarence Thomas, come out about what he knew. And and how they were working together potentially on this. So this has potential to be extremely damning for both of them. But she definitely should be called in front of the committee. And what we're seeing and what the media is reporting is that seems more likely now than ever.
Well, you know what we're going to see, and I want to read some of these comments. Matt from AM 950 radio up in Minneapolis, St. Paul said, Pence knew he was going to be offed if he got into the car. It took him 4 years to do one right thing. He certainly is no friend. I hear you. He is not a friend. We're not talking about that. Abraham Lincoln said, if you want to test a man, first give him power. He had the ultimate power. He did, within the context of government, and he refused to use it, to abuse it in that way. I have to give him credit for that. I don't have to agree with his politics. There are a lot of my political allies who personally are distasteful to me. But I agree with them politically. We're going to work together, and that's going to be that. Then there's some people with whom I'm politically opposed who are good and dear friends and who've been very kind. And so I kind of get on past that, Matt. I really do. And I think that we need to look at the fact that in that moment, he did the right thing. He did. So Mehdi, attorney Mehdi Rodriguez, says, I give Pence points for knowing he would be kept away from completing the electoral count on January 6th. And I think that we have to acknowledge Attorney Darrell Jones, chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Of course, you and Attorney Arnwine will be here with a voting seminar, and they're going to have a reception for Ahmaud Arbery's family. You're invited. You need to come. We'll hear more about that in a few. And of course, Attorney Erin Connolly will be participating with the voting panel and with the women. And so we've got a lot to do. Want you all to talk about that as we go on throughout the show. We had a coup. We've had a few of them. We still don't feel comfortable with John F. Kennedy's assassination and all that went into that and all that happened behind that. Many people are calling that a coup. Most Americans, the overwhelming majority, do not believe the official government story. And there's that. So you begin to crack at the credibility of government by doing that. Remember 2000, Attorney Darrell Jones? You had, wait a minute, the state of Florida. And after all the dust settled, Gore actually did win. He actually did win Florida. Just barely, but he did win. Not only did he win the popular vote by 500,000 nationally, but he actually did win Florida. But the Supreme Court intervened and stopped the count while these young Republicans were shipped in, and they behaved sluggishly and menacingly, physically threatening people who were counting. And there you have, that was the end of that. And the Supreme Court intervened and overturned the will of the people. They did do that. That's why we were going to march. But then you know what happened, Darrell? You put out a scandal about Reverend Jackson in his personal life. Oh, he has a child outside of his marriage. Now, a generation later, the child is grown. She's a college graduate. She has gone on about her business. Reverend Jackson is still here. And it made it that much easier, Attorney Darrell Jones. That much easier. With a candidate whose father had been head of the CIA, who was connected, who had been the former president. For real, Darrell? We've seen, the disruption of our government before. I guess it's just many people find President Trump he's such a colorful and large figure, and for some people, personally distasteful. But, when you don't catch things early, Darrell, they spin out of control. Attorney Darrell Jones.
And Santita, you're absolutely right. When we go back to think about that 2000 election and Bush versus Gore and the hanging chads that were in Florida, and all of the mess that was going on in Florida during that election cycle, and then to have the Supreme Court stepping in, and as you indicated, I was strongly on board with campaigns for Gore at that particular point, and nothing was more painful than watching the vice president certify that election, with the belief that it had not been lost by then Vice President Gore. That again, we spoke of Aaron Connolly spoke of the character that it took for the vice president, knowing that he should have been the president to certify an election, and then to have that backed up because of the Supreme Court's decision. But it's confidence that we had in both the president, vice president, as well as in the Supreme Court. And what's concerning now is that the institution of the Supreme Court is now at question, and its integrity is now at question. And I don't think that we're at a point where we would have the same response. You know, as much as we said, held our nose and whatever at the Supreme Court decision in 2000, I think that would not be the response today to this Supreme Court, because they've politicized themselves so heavily that that their integrity is in question. And our oldest member of the Supreme Court, with Clarence Thomas, now having all kinds of questions looming around him. Because, let's be clear, when they're talking about the leaks that are coming out from Eastman in the comments, we know that Eastman was Thomas's clerk. So the question is, tracing that pipeline from Justice Thomas to Eastman to Jenny Thomas. So it'll be interesting, I say, and I come from the criminal defense perspective on this one. It'll be interesting to see if Jenny Thomas shows up since she's been requested to talk. I don't know that she will. I don't know that she will, and that will raise all kinds of questions with regards to what's going on.
She can plead the fifth.
It's incredible.
She can do that. Let me go to Barry from River Park very quickly before we go to break. Barry, I've got about 2 minutes for you. Go for it.
Yeah, good morning. I wish that Democrats at this station would stop lionizing, making Mike Pence and people like Mike Pence and Liz Cheney heroes just because they now decide that, okay, we're not going to let the country totally go down the tubes. They've enabled it the whole time. They've been cruel to so many people. They've harmed so many people up to do so. Mike Pence, if he's president, will ban women's reproductive rights across the country and has wanted to do so. These people are harmful, terrible people. They are not heroes for doing this. They're doing this for political purposes and sort of an insider party thing. Both Pence and Cheney said they would support Donald Trump if he were the nominee. Not the primary, but if you're the nominee.
Wait. Hold on. Barry, stay right there. And Liz Cheney supported Trump 90% of the time. And Bill Barr said that if he became the nominee, reluctantly, but I'd support him. Please, your final minute.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'm not sure why everybody is, Democrats on social media and Democratic leadership saying how wonderful these people are.
Well, no,
they're
but
awful people.
Well,
and they're just.
Can I engage you for a hot second? Could I engage you for a second? Because I mean, I'm hearing you, but let me engage you in this last minute and a half before we have to go to break. I know for me, it's not. And I don't make character assessments about him being an awful person. I guess I've just been in this arena all of my life. So I push back on calling people awful. I might not like your policies and all kinds of things, but I'm not going to call someone awful. But that's just me because of how I have lived. And I don't want to do that. And his policies were awful when he was a congressman. His policies were awful when he was in Indiana. That having been said, I give you credit for even if it's just one good thing you do in your life, for whatever your motivations, because I think his motivations were multiple in number. No question. The lionization, we lionize people all the time. They're lionizing Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney's she's to the right of Attila the Hun, but no one cares about that. I get it, but I do appreciate the role that she's playing right now. In a particular moment, if you do the right thing, I appreciate that. And so the last, 30 seconds belong to you, Barry.
Well, these people are all pretty much in it for themselves. They're in it for their own power and aggrandizement. Political purposes are doing it for. However, when the chips are down, for years and years and years, when Trump was accusing people doing horrible things and people saying the worst things, there wasn't a peep from any of them. So I don't put them up as, I'm just so good at doing the right thing. They'll do the wrong thing again, and they're being allowed to do so. And Democrats are sort of helping to set them up as being heroes in the Republican Party. I don't want them having any exposure like that at all.
Well, Barry, I tell you what, don't count the corporate media out of this, because they have had an opportunity to make President Trump irrelevant for the past few years. But guess what they've done? They've mentioned his name every single day. Trust me, when you want to bury someone, you know how to do it, and no one knows how to do it better than the corporate media. They don't mention you. That's a form of death too. That's a form of assassination. So then you'll wonder, well, where has so and so been when people have been working in the community the whole time? No, death is not being covered. They have covered him every day and they've set him up perfectly to be the Republican nominee and maybe to march back into the White House again. Don't ever, ever, ever exclude the corporate media out of this. They are as in this as they were in his election and in his prominence. For the first time in my lifetime, I saw people. He never had to go into the studio. He could call in. I've never heard of anything like that. He got just more than $1 billion worth of free coverage. Someone who can get $1 billion from a bank. You better watch that. So all of that, you need to look at the whole system and question everything. Because they're all in it. All of them. All of them. No one's bringing up Liz Cheney's records. Nobody's doing any of that. But for what she's doing in this moment, I give her credit. For what he did in that moment, a man who was too afraid to get in the car with his Secret Service, well, I'll give him credit. More of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. I want to hear your thoughts. Pam, I'm going to come to you. Barry, thank you for calling in, sweetie. Back in just a minute. Oh, you guys, call in. Okay, Daryl? Hello? Is Daryl there? Daryl? Hey, when are you coming into Chicago?
I am right Sunday.
Okay, let me know when you get here. I'll be working. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to go and stay because I'm just kind of swamped with work right now. But I will certainly be at the convention the whole time. But I'm a little swamped when it comes to work. Yeah, just a little swamped. But there you go. But I don't want to miss you this time. But I don't have COVID this time like I did when you were here before. So I can see you. Oh, my God. Oh, Lord.
I'm very grateful for that.
Look, who are you telling? But, everybody I see, I had a delivery yesterday. And, and I don't do it in a way that's, that prompts hostility. Because, really, I understand that people approach all of these things from a lot of different perspectives, and I have to respect that. But thank you. The delivery people are not wearing masks, many of them, including some of the people who work in my building. And I'm like, whoa, honey, you don't know if you walk into someone's unit, if they have COVID or not. You don't know that. I said, well, I'm vaccinated. You're protected. No, I said, you're protected, not me. I said, that is the biggest joke going. And it's no. The selfless thing to do is to wear a mask. That's the thing, because you're blocking your particles from going out to someone. What the shots do is stop you from getting sick. You're not protecting anybody else. You can still be an asymptomatic carrier, which is even more dangerous. Oh, yeah. I have to break it down with people. I'm like, honey, wait. You need to understand what you're saying here and what happened here. Oh, my gosh. Attorney Mark Fancher? How are you? You know Attorney Fancher, National Conference of Black Lawyers. And he's also with the ACLU. He's head of the Racial Justice Project up in Michigan. Of course, we've got Attorney Erin Connolly, brilliant political organizer. She's, of course, part of PUSH, and she's helping to lead the women, and she's going to be working with us with voting, voter registration, and all of that throughout this campaign season. And she's working on what could be an historic campaign for Delia Ramirez. How is that going? I've got to get her back on next week because she was under the weather last week, and I've not had a chance to reach out to her this weekend. Of course, Attorney Daryl Jones from the Transformative Justice Coalition. How is State Representative Delia doing?
Well, she just got, as your brother Jonathan the endorsement of Bernie Sanders, and we will be in town on Saturday morning for a rally at Humboldt Park with the Northwest Side progressives that are on this slate. And she's really energized by that endorsement. He's been an amazing partner in her progressive political career since she was the underdog when she was running for state rep 5 years ago. So, you know how it is, though. When there are large, coordinated political action committees, a lot of it by independent and Republican money for her opponent, it's a challenge. But she is running the kind of campaign that she can be proud of, because she did not take big oil money. She did not take money from other corporate entities that can unduly influence our folks. So she's doing great. I've been on the phone banks, and I'm looking forward to knocking on some doors this weekend. And she's really energized and pumped up to kind of be that underdog. At the same time, I do
hold on 1 second. Hold on, because you're competing with the background. If you could bring that down just a bit close, May. Okay, thank you so much, hon. What were you saying?
We don't have enough Latinas representing us. And when we look at her district, it's the new Illinois 3rd District. Mm-hmm. It's a minority-majority district, but it's a plurality of Latino voters. And in Illinois, we have one amazing progressive Latino Congressman, Chuy Garcia, mm-hmm. but we need more of those voices. And I think the thing that I love about Delia, and I know you've spoken with her about her humble roots, and she's lived the type of struggles in her own life and with her family of vulnerability and growth and resilience. And we need more people like her, like Cori Bush, in Congress to bring a faith and a sense of urgency to the things that women, not just women, but especially women, are facing in our country.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. And well, you know, we all come from nothing, okay? The question is, do you remember it once you get somewhere? We come from nowhere, but when you get somewhere, do you remember it? Because look, I'm telling you, I'm a fight against poverty, but I'm not trying to be there. No. Not, and I'm willing to work hard and do everything I can that is moral and ethical to keep my head above water and to do well. I believe you can do well and do good. That having been said, what do you remember once you get there? Because if you look back in your family background, at some point, some generations ago, the Rockefellers were poor. Yeah, that's how it is. But what do you remember when you get from nowhere to somewhere? I need to write that down. That's going to be part of my memoir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what time do we need to be there tomorrow, Santita? Because we have the register that'll have to be up at it.
Let me call you back just to be sure. I'm thinking 9 o'clock. Because, you know, there's a reception tonight. Hold on. Hey, everybody. Hey. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Friday, June 17, 2022. Father's Day weekend. Sending much love to all the fathers out there. I'm sending much love to mine. Love my dad. And he'll be daddy to me forever. And all of you, even if you're estranged from your father, I do hope that some reconciliation will be in your heart, because you're not going to be whole unless you're at peace with both of your parents. Our fathers play such huge roles in our lives. They really do. And we need to be grateful for them. We need to be grateful for them and celebrate them this weekend. Of course, this weekend, the June 18th to 2022, what's happening? The Rainbow Push Conference. Please go to rainbowpush.org. You can get registered, but even if you don't get registered, just show up. Come to 930 East 50th Street tomorrow at Rainbow Push. Meta will be there, Facebook. We're going to be opening with Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. It's just going to be a really incredible conference. Of course, we have got Pastor Darius Brooks and the Tommies, Donnie McClurkin and Vicki Winans um, at Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church as we have our Clay Evans Memorial Concert. It is going to be something special. And, from Sunday onward, we will be at the South Shore Cultural Center. It's a beautiful, beautiful place on the lake. It's going to be wonderful. In between breaks, you can go stand on the lake and enjoy yourself, eat some great food. We're going to have a good time there. And we want you there, need you there. Please go to rainbowpush.org for more information. We're going to be talking about Jenny Thomas. That's right, and Clarence Thomas. There are renewed calls for him to resign, given his wife's involvement in the January 6th plan to keep President Trump as president, although he had lost in the Electoral College, even though he had lost the popular vote, even though the popular vote is not what puts you in. So what do you think about that? What do you think about Virginia Thomas? What do you think about the hearings? What do you think about the fact that Mike Pence refused to leave the Capitol? He said, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to do my job. Other people see something else more nefarious, more suspicious. There was a lot going on that day, and the more testimony we hear, the more we understand that. What do you make of what you've heard thus far? Call me, text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. Santita Jackson, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and my morning stars on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook and on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Everybody get on over there. Meet Lydia Bob from Silicon Valley over there. Many, if you can, get over there. Robert, get over to the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube. Everybody in Chicago, we're going to have a high of 80 degrees, partly cloudy. Thank goodness things have cooled down just a bit. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 85 degrees and sunny. The Dow closed down 2.4%. The NASDAQ closed down 4%, and the S&P 500 closed down 3.25%. If you close down 1%, that's major. That's frightening. This is 2, 3, 4%. Will we have a recession? Many people say we're already in it. What do you think, everybody? Well, we are the champions. That is what the Warriors are saying. Can you believe they won on the road in Boston? 103-90 over the Celtics. We are the champions. 7 years. They've had four championships. Wow. God bless you. God bless you. But the Celtics gave them a run for their money. Fantastic series, everybody. Major League Baseball. The White Sox will be playing the Astros today and tomorrow. The Cubs will be playing Atlanta today and tomorrow. And the Twins will be playing the Diamondbacks tonight. And of course, we're going to have a full weekend of WNBA basketball. The Lynx will be playing the Aces. The Dream will be playing the Sky. And the Sky will be playing the Fever all this weekend, everybody. Get out there and support those WNBA teams. Oh, January 6th, the Select Committee investigating the Capitol insurrection used Thursday's hearing to detail how former President Donald Trump tried to pressure Vice President Mike Pence to join his plan to overturn the presidential election, and how then Vice President Mike Pence refused to do so, and how it put his own life at risk. Indeed, people were all over the Capitol looking for him, looking to kill him. Indeed, the Proud Boys have said if we caught him, we would have killed him. What do you think about that? But he then refused to go with the Secret Service when they were trying to take him to a secure location. What do you make of that? Call me at 773-763-9278. 773-763-9278. Indeed, President Trump's lawyer, John Eastman, took a real grilling yesterday. We're going to be talking about that. What did that mean? Jason Miller, a former senior advisor to the Trump campaign, told the committee in testimony that was aired yesterday that campaign lawyers Justin Clark and Matt Morgan thought that Eastman was crazy for putting forth the theory that the vice president could certify the election. Now, as the January 6th committee is closing in, they want to speak with Jenny Thomas, the wife of Clarence Thomas, the longest-serving justice on the Supreme Court. Indeed, now many people are calling for his resignation because we see now, according to the New York Times, that his wife's position and everybody's thoughts about the election prompted big fights on the court. Big fights. That's in the New York Times, everybody. I'm going to pull out that article for you. But she says for her portion that she is looking forward to talking to the January 6th committee to, quote, clear up misconceptions. What do you think? What should her role be? But this is the headline from the New York Times. Trump lawyers cited heated fight among justices over the election suits. And of course, Clarence Thomas sided with the president every single time. Do you think that that's interesting? Wow. Indeed, some people are saying she was very much a part of the seditious conspiracy. She certainly was in close touch with John Eastman, the president's lawyer. But we have a lot to figure out. What does insurrection and coup and sedition mean and all of that? And as we get into that, with this magnificent panel of lawyers, attorney Darrell Jones, of the chair of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Aaron Connolly, a brilliant political organizer and activist. And we're welcoming from the National Conference of Black Lawyers, attorney Mark Fancher. And later on in the show, we'll have Marjorie Cohn, Professor Marjorie Cohn, the former president of the National Lawyers Guild, professor emerita from the Thomas Jefferson School of Law, one of the icons in law, one of the icons in the progressive movement. Cannot wait to hear her thoughts. She's been writing brilliantly about this. But you know what? Before we get into that, I want to know if you are dealing with financial difficulties. Do you have high credit card debt? Do you have bad credit, poor credit, credit that you need to create? A lot of us don't have credit. A lot of us don't have a credit card. We can't get one. Well, Team Hochberg is for you. If you want to purchase a home, if you think that's beyond your grasp, it isn't. You need to get in touch with Team Hochberg. If you want to refinance your existing home, if you want to secure a VA loan, if you want to find out about reverse mortgages, call Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID. 855-56-DAVID. Put Team Hochberg in your browser, HOCBERG, and look at all of the hundreds of five-star Google reviews. Indeed, this is what David said. He said, quote, "My wife and I make good money but had no way to pay off our credit card debt, so we called Team Hochberg and worked with them to pay off $45,000 in credit card debt." And you know a lot of us are dealing with that. And he said it just eliminated our stress and saved us over $1,000 a month. You know what? That could be you. It could be you. But you got to call them first. Hundreds of WCPT listeners have called them and have worked their way back into financial health. Call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or 56david.com. That includes you, AM 950 Radio up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. Get the free consultation. Tell them everything. And then they will come up with a plan to bring you into financial health and well-being. All right, everybody, let's get right to it. We have been talking with you, Attorney Darrell Jones. You'll be at the Rainbow Push On International Conference, June 18th to the 22nd. Can't wait to hear more about that shortly. And of course, you will be joining him. Well, you'll be there in your own right there. Attorney Aaron Connolly. And we're going to be talking about that. But we're welcoming onto the show Attorney Mark Fancher and several libertarian National Conference of Black Lawyers. What have you seen? Particularly, it seems that as we continue to go forward, we're finding out a lot. It gets more dicey. We're finding out John Eastman's role. He was the president's lawyer. He was the one in the president's ear, one of the persons, but he certainly was quite influential in telling him, hey, you can do this. All we need to do is get Mike Pence to certify the election. Then you've got Virginia Thomas, Clarence Thomas's wife, who was very much in his ear and talking to him. Indeed, there were fights on the Supreme Court over these election suits. The only person who really faithfully sided with President Trump was Virginia Thomas's husband, her partner in life, her best friend. That's how they refer to each other. They should be. They're husband and wife. Justice Thomas, the longest serving justice, indeed the senior statesman on the court. And then, of course, Mike Pence refused to get in a car with the Secret Service. That, to me, I think that's the most telling part. That lets me know that he really felt endangered on January 6th, 2021. Mark, what are your impressions of what we've been hearing?
Those who are conducting these hearings are doing a great service in that they are making a record of things that I think most of us who have a healthy skepticism and cynicism about Washington and Trump and everybody else, things that we already knew. They're just ensuring that the record is clear. They're documenting these things. They're preserving them for posterity, so that when there is a study of this period of history, everybody will know exactly what happened, and it will be documented. But I think, from my perspective, the most important thing about all of this is that it's holding up a mirror to the U.S., its culture, its society, its history. And if people are willing to look into that mirror and honestly accept what they see, it will say a lot about the character of the United States of America. We're watching the implosion of an empire. It is long overdue. It's been preserved and sustained in unnatural ways longer than it should have been, but it is collapsing. And the key to understanding why is the character of the country. You can tell, you can determine a society's level of character by the way that it responds to stress and hardship. You can go to many countries that are stressed, who are facing disasters and catastrophes, and see how they respond. When Haiti has had its natural disasters, they have uncovered people who have been buried under rubble for days, and when they pull them out, they're singing hymns and praising God. You can go into many countries that have been oppressed bitterly by imperialist forces, neo-colonialist forces, and they fought. Their response to that stress and oppression has been to fight very principled wars of national liberation, maintaining at all times very positive viewpoints about human life, preserving it when possible. You have seen so many countries that deal with staggering poverty, and the people carry themselves with quiet dignity, even in the face of the hardships that they face. But this country, the people of this country, have been trained through their historical experience to respond to stress in ways which are very destructive, ways in which are indicative of a lack of a firm grasp of morality, a spiritual connection. And so that's what happens when you have demagogues like Trump who exploit that history, that culture, and use it in ways for to benefit themselves, and it has these types of devastating consequences. I mean, there's such a history of it. You can't help but have a culture like that. You can't help but have a mindset of like that when you have people who are basically the political social descendants of, like John Shivington, who in the Sand Creek Massacre wiped out a village of Native American people, and their soldiers, the soldiers under his command, carved the genitalia from the victims, attached them to their hats as trophies, slaughtered children. You can't help it when you've got a country that has a history of lynching, where they've involved small children in that process. You can't help it when you have a country that's engaged in imperialist war time after time after time, going into other countries and bombing them to the point where they're totally destroyed. So it's no surprise. We have the opportunity with these hearings of seeing the end result of that on a micro level, with individuals who have been socialized to react to hardship with violence, mindless violence, acting purely on emotion and without thinking, without resorting to moral principles and grounding themselves in it. We see it. And I think that it should give pause to anybody who's looking at all of this and go beyond just looking at, well, Trump is a bad guy. Yeah, he is. But what does that say about the rest of the country?
Indeed, people get the leadership they deserve. This is a reflection of who we are, where we are. People keep saying, this is not who we are. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Now, the question is, who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? I think that is the question. Before I come back to you, Attorney Daryl Jones and Attorney Aaron Connolly, let me get some of these callers up. Pam from the West Side. Pam, what's on your mind?
Good morning, Santita, and good
morning.
morning to your illustrious panel.
Thank you for the information. So here's my thought. Really quickly, Santita, I'm thinking if Donald Trump, based on a big lie, can raise $250 million, I'm asking, what can we do for our civil rights organization? Push in churches who are fighting the fight against voter suppression and suppression. If they can raise that on a big lie, can't we raise and become members of our organizations based on the truth? That was the one thought that came to my head. Based on the truth, how much money are we going to raise? And who are we going to fund? And who are we going to finance in terms of elected officials? Regarding the hearing, I'm thankful for the hearing because it is filling in pieces for me, Santita. And as I look at the commentary from corporate media, it's too, for me, nonchalant and too detached. For me, it's almost as if they're just reporting on another story. And here it is, but it's really not that bad. And I know in journalism, I took a course. You know, there's a way to report a story that you kind of will guide the audience. And I can't go into details, but you may know what I'm talking about. Regarding Pence, we know that with a coup, you very seldom carry out a coup without murder. So for me, Donald Trump, yes, this was an attempted murder. Or whoever needed to be disposed of in order to get his will. What I did know was that one of Donald Trump's tweets regarding Pence occurred while the Capitol was breached. I did know that. So that would then more so enrage the insurrectionists and the terrorists to locate and Champagne, Pence, and they were very clear with the interview from the Proud Boys that they wanted to kill Pence. So I'm paying very close attention, and we need to get used to hearing that Donald Trump should be in prison. I don't want to hear anything else about where we're not a banana republic. We don't imprison our U.S. president. If you committed the crime, you need to go to jail, be convicted, prison, whatever that is. And we need to get used to hearing that and envisioning what that looks like for Trump. So to your legal panel, I'm going to ask, what do you all feel about the attorneys who helped Trump carry this out? Because Eastman and Cruz, they were law clerks under Luddick. And even if you want to comment on Judge Luddick, I'm hearing he's a big wig in that field, Santita.
Yes, well, hold on. Let me give them the space to answer these questions, okay? First of all, because that's a brilliant question, Pam, and I hope I'll see you at the convention this weekend. Hello, Pam. Thank you. Well, now, let me start with you. Attorney Jones, and then you, Attorney Connolly, and then you, Attorney Fancher. Literally about 30 seconds apiece. What do you make of the lawyers who advised President Trump? She's asked a brilliant question.
And that is an excellent question. And, I think that Rudy Giuliani sort of sets the stage for that, right? Sets the precedent for that. And we know that they went after his law license so that he could no longer practice and suspended his license to practice law. I would suspect you're going to see a similar fate coming down with any of the attorneys that were intentionally misleading the public and giving this information on what they should do. So I would look for those types of suspension and those types of bar activity to come against their ability to practice law. That's immediately what I would be looking for.
Aaron Connolly. Attorney Connolly.
Well, I second that, and I think that is long overdue. It's a very high bar to get admitted to the bar, and you have to maintain a certain level of practice and character and integrity with regards to respecting the Constitution. I think at the very least they should have certain aspects of their practice minimized, and they should start formal proceedings to disbar these folks. These are not folks that should be credentialed under any state bar in the United States when you are essentially aiding and abetting treason.
Attorney Mark Fancher, 30 seconds.
Yeah, there are many jokes about lawyers being crooks and that type of thing, but it's really not true. Because of that perception, the legal profession is very, very concerned about the integrity of those who are members of the bar, and they don't take these things lightly. So I agree with my colleagues. I don't see good things ahead, at least with respect to the licensing of the attorneys that are involved with this type of thing.
Do you know what? When we get on the other side, I think Pam was also pushing at something else. What about the quality of the advice that the president got at the time? You know, because these are legal theories, and like medicine, law is practiced, right? It's not, you know, performed with complete certitude, because you have to wait on a decision, because it depends upon perspectives that gives you the decision, right? So it's the practice of law. And different theories were being pushed. And people, you can always get people to agree with your theory. So what do you make of that? And what do you make of Mike Pence saying, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not going to leave here. Not with you, you guys. I'm going to stay right where I am. I'm not. Where is Jennifer Holliday when I need her? And I'm telling you, I'm not going. I'm going to stay right here. Well, no. The Proud Boys are at the door. I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. It's safer in here with the Proud Boys at my door than it is for me to leave with you. Back. In just a moment on the Santita Jackson Show, June 18th through the 22nd, everybody. We're going to be celebrating Juneteenth at the Rainbow Push Conference, Fathers and Father's Day, free seminar with Facebook is coming in to have a free seminar with you. But you got to get on over to Rainbow Push tomorrow, 930 50th Street, and then the South Shore Cultural Center on Sunday. Back in just a minute. All right, my beautiful people. Boy, has this been exciting. Oh my. But you know, when I
would have thought that Dan Quayle would be advising Mike Pence on this too. That's an interesting part of that story that
wait a minute.
I keep forgetting.
And don't forget Maryland, the real power behind that. Because you know, Dan Quayle always looked blank.
Right.
I mean, his wife induced labor so she could go take her bar exam. Remember that?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow. I mean, really? Oh, okay. that was, I just, my mother, when she was pregnant with my baby sister, Jackie, she was pregnant. It felt like, it was like Jackie, for us, it was like she was overdue by a month. We were like, when is the baby going to get here? Mom was like, when the child wants to come. And her doctor wanted to induce labor. My mother was so furious. She went into labor the next day. And then my sister was there. She was like so adamantly opposed to that. She was like, that's just unnatural. That's crazy. She was furious. Oh my gosh. But I just, I think that there's just a lot here. And I think inadvertently, they've undone a lot, they've released a lot of information out here. But I'm telling you, Daryl and Mark and Aaron, I cannot let 2000 go. We all felt that the decision in 2000, Daryl, was very dangerous. That's part of what got us here. For us to just look at Trump and say, oh, he did it. I said, no. And the Bushes, who I have met down through the years, I like them personally a lot. You can be mad with me if you want. I do. Politically, I'm in disagreement with a lot of what they've done. And I absolutely disagreed with how George W. Bush got in. I thought that was dangerous. I thought that was a coup. I mean, come on, you guys. His brother was the governor of Florida. And they were looking at his brother sideways like, you don't have this state locked up? No, he didn't. Daryl, am I alone here?
Not alone at all. I think you're right on the point.
Come on.
The whole it was just a mess. But it was just remembering that time period and what it was like in the country and the tension that was there. It was just incredible.
Oh, come on. It was like, what? Then the Supreme Court intervenes. At least one of the justices his father had appointed. Are you serious? But the problem was we didn't get upset enough in 2000. And when you continue to let people violate you, they continue to amp it up. I mean, and the number of police officers who were in on the riot on the Capitol. I mean, from all over the country.
We have 1 minute.
Come on, y'all. Do we have Chaparral out?
Chaparral's on vacation, remember?
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure. Because sometimes she might be open.
Yesterday.
She might not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I remember you said that she was going to be on vacation the rest of this week.
She's
so I
on
figured
vacation.
not to call her.
She is in Jamaica.
Yeah. And then, did you want to go to Anita after the break? Because she's our only
No.
caller left. And then we
No,
can then
trust
go,
me.
to,
I got it. I space them out. No
Okay.
worries.
We have about 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Ooh. Well, that's what they are, Robert.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Ooh, hey everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Happy Father's Day weekend. Hope that you all are going to be having a magnificent Father's Day with your daddies this weekend. And some people might need some reconciliations. I hope that that can happen too. So I'm going to pray for everyone. I want everyone to have peace and to be as whole, just to be whole. That really is important. Juneteenth, we'll be celebrating this weekend or commemorating. You know, I'm trying to figure that out because remember, the slaves were lied to. Our enslaved people had been lied to. They were already free, but their slave masters in Texas didn't tell them. So that is really what we are commemorating: the lies of the slave masters and of the state, and of the eventual freedom of these enslaved persons in Texas. So we're not celebrating the end of slavery. Slavery had been over. So I want us to get real clear on that. Okay, everybody, let's talk about these January 6th hearings. We're going to have Marjorie Cohn in just a few minutes, Professor Emerita at the Thomas Jefferson School of Law, but she is also the former president of the National Lawyers Guild. She's an icon in the progressive movement, in the progressive space. I've known her for a long time, and I'm so glad that she's going to join us. And she's been writing furiously about the January 6th hearings and Virginia Thomas. And let me bring on Anita very quickly. Anita, what's your question or comment, Anita?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My comment is, I don't know why Reverend Jesse Jackson is not getting involved with the Putin thing. I mean, obviously American politicians have lost focus, and even up to the president and the Republicans tried something different with Trump, but it did not work, just like they think the Democrats tried something different with Barack Obama. I guess Trump failed and they claim Obama failed with his health care. But I want the country at peace. I need Reverend Jesse Jackson around. Hopefully his son will win, Jonathan will win, so that we can have representation of something real. Again, I'm going to say the politicians have lost focus. America's going to have to find a better way. And I think the minister this morning has said God is the Father, and that Christ was the first one to call God Father. I didn't know that. Because the Jewish community is heavily... Huh?
Yes, that's right. You know, reestablishing the order, reestablishing the relationship that we were to have with God and with each other. You know, by making God the collective God, one God, first of all, by having one God and one Father, that makes us all what? Brothers and sisters. Jesus did a whole reset.
And right, and your Father has just done everything Martin Luther King attempted to do for that brotherhood to happen. And he's doing it without a script, and no one's listening. And Putin is letting us know that this is out of hand. We can't follow any religion, any democracy. That's hypocrisy. And we're not listening. Now we have an insurrection saying well, we don't like everything that's going on either. So where's the order going to be established? It's been established in what Reverend Jesse Jackson has carried on, and he has done the job well. And we're in trouble. We got hostages overseas with Putin.
Sure.
Brianna, I forget her name. Things are out of hand, Santita.
Well, and things can get in hand. I think that's the beauty. I'm sending you much love, Anita. I wish you were here this weekend to be at our convention, but I know you'll be here in spirit, and we'll be streaming it on rainbowpush.org. Let me ask everybody about Virginia Thomas. I mean, some people are saying that she is really at the heart of this seditious conspiracy. She's a key player. And in fact, Representative Benny Thompson, I agree with you, Attorney Darrell Jones. He has behaved in such, I would say, a fatherly way. He's been the adult in the room. I have felt so comfortable with him being the chair. He is so grown, even as he was confronted by one of his fellow committee members. And, it's a team of equals, but he is at the head of it. He said, look, we're not prosecutors, we're legislators. We're going to do our job. We're going to make the case, and then we will leave it to the Department of Justice to do what they need to do. And this is one of the things that we have to see, Attorney Darrell Jones, that even arrests and prosecutions and imprisoning people, they're political decisions. I cannot tell you all the people who were telling us when my brother Jesse fell into difficulty when he was in the U.S. House of Representatives, people who were having problems to the tunes of millions of dollars, right, with their campaign funds. And mind you, do you know that they never wanted my brother to pay a dime of that money back? And he never spent the money. These were things that he had collected for fundraisers. And he still has that stuff to this day. They didn't want any of it, but they wanted him in prison to ruin his reputation and to end his political career. So there you have it. It lets you know just how political imprisonment is. Always know that, everybody. The mass incarceration of Black and brown people, that's a political decision. That's a voting bloc. All of that. But what about Virginia Thomas? Jenny Thomas? Because they've even made her more accessible and more sweet by not calling her Virginia, which is a very strong name. We're now calling her Jenny, Attorney Darrell Jones.
Yeah, well, definitely calling her Jenny. And, the whole piece to Jenny Thomas, Virginia Thomas, I think is going to really be interesting as it unfolds. And when we get to the point, and again, I tell you as a criminal defense attorney, from what I've seen at this point in time, I don't know that I let her testify before this commission. I don't know that I do that. I think the country needs it to happen. But the question becomes one of the exposure of your client. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to present a very interesting piece. It's going to be an interesting piece in addition because if she testifies before this commission and she invokes the Fifth Amendment, there are going to be all kinds of speculation and arguments that then start arising around that. You're going to see a continuing, growing drumbeat calling for something to happen with regards to Clarence Thomas. You're going to see a continuing, growing drumbeat for, what should happen to this institution, the Supreme Court. How do we now view it? I mean, it's taken a lot of chinks in the armor right now with regards to what Justice Thomas and Jenny Thomas, Virginia Thomas, are doing. So it's going to be a lot that's there. If she testifies and she answers some questions and not other questions, there's so many layers of what could happen if she takes the seat to testify, to answer questions from the committee. I look forward to it happening because, I think that it's good for the soul of our country to pull back the sheets and turn on the lights and see what's lying in this bed so that we understand fully what happened here. And it's going to, America has a short memory a lot of times, but we need to certainly etch this, solder this into our memories of what we're going through right now, because it's the essence of voting rights. Because what we saw happening on January the 6th, Santita, was an attempt to overthrow the votes of the American people, to get rid of it, to decertify it, to stop that process. That's what we saw that was going on January the 6th with those insurrectionists. And so, it's going to be interesting because from that, we flow out to all of this voter suppression stuff that's out there. We encourage everybody to come to the Rainbow Push conference this weekend. On Tuesday, we're going to be talking about many of these very voting rights suppression issues with a lot of the top activists in the area, in the country. You know, Barbara Arnwine and Latasha Brown and Helen Butler and Virginia K. Sullivan, you know, just top people, Desmond Meade. They're all going to be there answering these questions about what's going on in our country, what January 6th was all about, what voter suppression is going on, and how we should respond to it. So, you know, it's huge what Jenny Thomas, Virginia Thomas, and Clarence Thomas have been doing and trying to uncover it and begin to peel back the layers on this onion and see what's there.
Fred, well, let me get you in before we bring on Attorney Marjorie Cohn, Professor Emerita from the Thomas Jefferson School of Law. Marjorie Cohn, former president of the National Lawyers Guild. Fred, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Santita. Yeah, two things. I've been listening to you regularly.
Thank you.
The people got what they deserved, what they voted for. No, they got what they got what they voted for. That's the $10 gallon, $9.94 gallon. But the real reason is when I was watching the hearings. Now, you know, I've been on jury duty on a murder trial, so I put myself as jury number 9 in the box. And when Benny Thompson and his panel opened up the first 2 days, they laid out the perfect case for the First Amendment. They kept talking about Trump's big lies and how it inspired the rioters. Well, they should read the First Amendment, and also that was backed up with the Jerry Falwell outhouse case. The Jerry Falwell outhouse case. This is nothing but free speech. Now, you may not like what happened with Trump. It was all free speech. Anybody want to respond?
Does anyone want to respond? Free speech, but you know, you don't have the right to shout fire in a crowded building, Fred, from LA. Don't. So, I mean, your point about free speech is what exactly?
Well, Trump committed no crime. You had one caller say that Trump should be looking at prison time. There's been no crime committed, at least not by Donald Trump, unless you can tie a conspiracy with him to the rioters. And nobody's been able to do that yet.
Well, before we bring on Attorney Marjorie Cohn, she is standing by. Just very quickly, Aaron, Mark, you want to take a crack at that? I got about a minute.
I think really what we're seeing is this conspiracy unfolding. And additionally, he can be guilty of inciting mayhem. As you mentioned, Santita, you cannot yell fire in a crowded theater if there is no fire, right? So there was an angry mob assembled with an intent, and he incited them to go into that building. There is a precedent that he had some role in that, even though he was not physically there. I would love to hear the other attorneys' take on that, but the conspiracy elements are also in play, and I think are being well established within the committee.
Well, you know, and I have to tell you, yes, please go on, Mark, please.
No, I agree with that. I think that's where they're going with it. And, you know, in some ways, I think it's more nefarious for someone to participate in a conspiracy and then go and run and hide, which is what he did.
I agree. I mean, and, you know, I think we have to revisit 2000 because we were too unwilling. It was like John Conyers, God rest his soul, the congressman, really our congressman from Detroit, Michigan, was like, he was on an island all by himself when he was shouting to investigate all of the misadventures and nefarious activities around the 2000 election. He did the same thing in 2004, and we turned our heads. We buried our heads in the sand, and we're paying for that. We are paying for that. I think we have a Professor Emerita from the Thomas Jefferson School of Law, Marjorie Cohn, former president of the National Lawyers Guild, absolute giant in the space of law, in the progressive movement. I'm so glad to welcome you to the show. Welcome, Marjorie Cohn. I'm so glad that you're here. Talk to us, you know, because we're all trying to tease out what we've been seeing over the past few days, and particularly yesterday with Mike Pence saying, hey, I'm telling you, I'm not going to go with you, Secret Service, anywhere. I'm going to stay right here You see John Eastman and his role. You see Virginia Thomas and her role, and the fights they were having on the Supreme Court. Take it away. I don't even know where to begin.
Santita. John Eastman is a right-wing attorney. He devised a theory to basically steal the election for Donald Trump, where in violation of the Electoral Count Act, he was telling Mike Pence, and Trump was telling Mike Pence, that he should either reject electors that went for Joe Biden or dismiss or suspend the proceedings, the reading and counting of the ballots, the electoral ballots, and send them back to the states that that were kind of that could have gone for Donald Trump, that were close, and where they were saying there was fraud, which turns out there wasn't. And so the first thing is that John Eastman devised this theory. Secondly, there were emails, more than the committee had even thought, between John Eastman and Ginny Thomas. And third, John Eastman showed insider knowledge of what was happening on the Supreme Court. Now, I want to just start out responding to what one of your guests was saying, that Donald Trump wasn't guilty of anything. Federal Judge Carter found in David Carter found in April that it was more likely than not that Donald Trump and John Eastman committed conspiracy to defraud the United States. There was an agreement between them. Trump knew the plan was illegal but continued to push for it. Eastman repeatedly recognized that his plan violated the Electoral Count Act. And that it didn't have any historical precedent for the vice president basically to decide an election. And so there is that basic roadmap for Attorney General Merrick Garland to bring charges. Now, Judge Carter ruled last week that Eastman should turn over more than 100 emails. And some of these documents, well, first of all, Carter found they were of substantial interest to the House committee, since they furthered a critical objective of the January 6th plan to have contested states certify alternate slates of electors for President Trump. Now, among those documents were communications between Eastman and Ginny Thomas. And she was inviting him to speak and give an update of the election litigation to this right-wing group. And also, two other documents about this meeting showed that they were going to discuss state legislative actions that can reverse the media election for Joe Biden. So then it turns out, the plot thickens, that in December of 2020, Eastman wrote a private email to a Trump lawyer, Kenneth Chesebro, showing that Eastman had insider knowledge of a, quote, heated fight, unquote, taking place at the Supreme Court over whether the Supreme Court would hear arguments about Trump's attempts to overturn his election. And so in light of those emails, the committee is going to ask Thomas to testify. Did ask her to testify. They weren't going to before. They're making nice. And she said, well, I can't wait to clear up the misconception, and I look forward to talking to them. Well, there is a long history between the Thomases and Eastman. Eastman clerked for Clarence Thomas, and Thomas has ties with the Claremont Institute, which is a right-wing group where Eastman works. Ginny Thomas played an active role in trying to overturn the 2020 election. She was in touch with White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows and others in the Trump's orbit, urging them not to concede after Trump had lost. Ginny Thomas contacted 29 Arizona legislators, urging them to decertify Arizona's vote and choose alternative electors for Trump. The New York Times Magazine said that no spouse of a sitting Supreme Court justice has ever in U.S. history been a more overt political activist than Ginny Thomas. Now, the Thomases deny any wrongdoing. They say there's an iron wall separating their careers. They have nothing to do with each other. But in 2002, Clarence Thomas, and I refuse to call him justice because he's not a justice, Clarence Thomas was a headline speaker at this CNP group, which is a right-wing group, and in 2020, the CNP was central to the messaging to frame the election as having been stolen. And the CNP is, according to the New York Times, a little-known club of a few hundred of the most powerful conservatives in the country. During Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation, the CNP met in secret for a 3-day strategy meeting to plot a way to implement a hyper-conservative social, cultural, and religious agenda. Now, had the legislators in Arizona responded to pressure from Ginny Thomas and the CNP and other right-wing groups, there would have been a constitutional crisis, mass protests in the street, and eventually the Supreme Court would have had to get involved. And Clarence Thomas was the only dissenter on the court to reject Trump's bid to withhold documents from the House committee in January. So, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck and acts like a duck, well, by golly, it appears to be a duck, and this is really corrupt. It's dirty, it's disgusting, and I think this is the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to see a lot more come out. And if Ginny Thomas does testify before the committee, and I think we're probably not going to see her, they'll probably have her testify. I don't know, maybe they'll quickly get her on national television. She thinks that she can get up there and defend herself. I think she'll be lacerated by the lawyers and the committee members. I think she's really in for it, and hopefully the American people will get to see what's happening. It's really, really, it's rotten.
Well, with it, Marjorie Cohn, former president of the National Lawyers Guild. I have a couple minutes left here. Want to see everybody when we having conversations like this. This is the Rainbow Push Coalition International Conference, the 18th through the 22nd, beginning tomorrow at 930 East 50th Street. What should happen with Clarence Thomas? Should he be investigated? Do you think he should resign? I mean, what's going on here?
Should recuse himself from any litigation at all regarding the Trump election, and I'm not sure what litigation will get there, except that we'll see. John Eastman has basically said that he thinks the Electoral Count Act is unconstitutional, and therefore the vice president should make this decision, even though the Supreme Court has never overruled the Electoral Count Act since 1887 when it was passed. Number one, he should recuse himself from any litigation regarding the election, and that may be a moot point at this point. Secondly, he should be impeached. If this evidence continues to come out tying him directly and Ginny Thomas directly to illegal attempts to overturn the election. Now, there's only been one attempt to impeach a Supreme Court justice, and it failed. And it probably would fail again because, as we saw with Trump's impeachments, both impeachments, the Congress is not going to go along with that. But the American people would see exactly what's happening and would expose him. Now, the problem is that there's no higher power than the Supreme Court in terms of each member of the Supreme Court making a decision about whether to recuse himself or herself or participate in a decision. But the only way that Clarence Thomas could be removed is through impeachment. Now, you would think that with this coming out increasingly, tying his wife so directly to the attempts to overthrow the government, basically, that he would be humiliated and resigned. But I don't think that Clarence Thomas is capable of being humiliated. And he is clearly, we have a radical right-wing Supreme Court, 6-3. We have a radical right-wing majority. Clarence Thomas is by far the worst, the most right-wing of any of these right-wing justices. And I shouldn't use the word justice. I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what? Clarence Thomas, I'm with you. And he is the most right-wing, and they would get him to be that. The black consensus on him, we opposed his elevation to the Supreme Court. The black consensus was broken as soon as he played this card, high-tech lynching. Then we said, oh my goodness, he's going to remember. Remember what? Told you who he was, and now he's showing you who he is. And we are paying the price for it, and we're going to pay the price for it into the future. It just will not stop. That's why you need to be at this Rainbow Push convention. June 18th through 22nd. I got 30 seconds for you. Go on, Daryl, and tell us why we need to be at this convention.
Thanks so much, Santita. Everyone needs to be at this convention. Let me tell you, you are going to learn so much. You're going to hear so much. You're going to experience so much on how to fight voter suppression as it exists. Let me tell you, we also have going to go on Tuesday night where we're going to honor the father of Ahmaud Arbery, Marcus Arbery, and his fight for justice for his son. We'll bring Crystal Mason, who was one of the ladies out of Texas who was in prison for voting and fighting for her freedom, as well as Pamela Moses. We're bringing in from Memphis, who was in prison for voting and fighting for the voting rights. Folks, we have voting rights champions that are going to be there. You will not want to miss this Rainbow Push Coalition conference. It will be everything that you need to learn and inspire you to get ready for the election season that we're coming into for 2022. Folks, you gotta be there. That's the best I can say, Santita. You don't want to miss it.
Well, that's a whole lot. Facebook will be with us tomorrow. They're coming in to teach you about Meta. There's so much that we have got to discuss. Marjorie Cohn, you got to stay with me just a couple more minutes. I want you to give my Facebook audience just a little bit more. And if you can't stay with me, Daryl, yes, but I know you're running. Attorney Aaron Connolly, Attorney Mark Fancher, if you can stay with me a couple more minutes, I got to get everything I can out of Attorney Marjorie Cohn, this brilliant professor emeritus from the Thomas Jefferson School of Law. I love you, everybody. Can't wait to be with you. Thank you, Coach, for a great show. See you tomorrow at Rainbow Push, 930 East 50th Street, and at the South Shore Cultural Center right after that. Love you, everybody. Happy Father's Day. Jesse Jackson's daughter signing off. Okay, Marjorie Cohn.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. I think
Have they all dropped off?
had to run.
Okay, well, oh wow, you guys.
Yeah, we told Attorney Connolly and Attorney Fancher still up.
Okay, well, please. I mean, well, I would love to hear you react to what, Marjorie Cohn just kind of put a button on all this stuff. Attorney Fancher, what do you have to say?
Well, just generally, I guess. A few years ago, I watched an interview that Julian Bond conducted with Clarence Thomas. And it was intriguing to me because I have always tried to figure this man out. And, I listened to him talk about his upbringing. I listened to him talk about his reflections and observations about the Black Power movement, the Civil Rights movement, and other things. And at the end of it, I said that this man and the things that he has talked about, the equation just doesn't work out, in terms of what he talked about and who he is and the things that he does as, on the Supreme Court. And I thought about it, I meditated on it, and I finally, came up with an analysis that explains Clarence Thomas. He's a nut. And I think that, a nut would seek to marry a nut, and they are nuts together. And that's not a clinical diagnosis, but I think it's an accurate one. And my personal policy is that I don't spend too much time trying to figure nuts out because then it turns me into one. And so for me, that's the bottom line.
You know what I think he is? I think he is a guy who is filled with self-loathing, because he comes from a world that we all understand. I mean, indeed, Ketanji Brown Jackson said, "I just don't understand you. You sound like my parents. I mean, you come from the same place, you have the same experiences, but some of us are so filled with self-loathing, and you see this with every oppressed group. You see it with women, Aaron. You see it with Hispanics. You see it with Jewish people. You see it with anyone who's under the boot who finally gets a little bit of privilege, or who really is, who's proximate to power. Those who are proximate to power behave more powerfully. They have more swagger than the people who really have the power. That is to say, when Black folks get close to power, those who, really want to be imperialist, when they install black leaders, I get nervous, Mark and Aaron, Oh, when they put a woman on top of something, I get nervous because I know some damage is going to be done to vulnerable people. When I look at Maggie Thatcher, oh, I knew it was on in the UK. Oh, yeah, because you had a woman and you could do a whole lot with a woman. You could do a whole lot of damage. When you put black people in power, you can do a whole lot of damage. Whenever you put these oppressed groups in power, you can do a whole lot of damage. And guess what? Those who are from the oppressed groups who come into power do so willingly. They hurt people willingly. That's what's so awful. And not always, but most of the time. Most of the time. Oh, well, I see Clarence Thomas highly problematic, but we knew that. But as soon as he said it's a high-tech lynching, many black people, and you saw it happen, Aaron, you saw it happen, Mark. We said, oh, he's when he gets there, he's going to remember. I said, remember what? Remember that he wants to forget all about you? Well, he's going to remember how to put you in your place. Hello? Can I get a witness? Or am I by myself?
No,
That's
absolutely.
gospel
Yep.
truth.
Oh. You know, you've seen some women do some awful things, Aaron. So you're like, what world are you living in? Phyllis Schlafly? What?
We like to forget, right? We like to forget where we came from, and we don't have that core integrity, and we haven't, as you said. He is coming from a place of shame of his past instead of lifting those other people up who are fighting those same battles, right? There's I think two ways you can go when you have struggle in your life. You can either become a true advocate so nobody else has to go through what you've been through, or you become of the camp that I survived and you need to go through that same suffering because I was able to rise to power or success or whatever it is. And I think you can tell that in a person in many cases when they're just starting out. And it's who sent the person that is gaining this power? Because they're usually, in many circumstances, is somebody who, as you said, who is funding a campaign, who is helping folks rise through the ranks through these networks. As we're talking about the Thomas family being a part of this almost covert, elite, conservative, religious fundamentalist network. And who is sending these people to power? Who are their friends? Right. Who are they loyal to? Who is giving them money? Who is funding their campaign?
That's it.
Who are they beholden to keep their power?
Well, you know what? You're right, because I'm going to tell you, the black leadership, that black people send the strong, white people select the weak. Okay? You can always tell when a black leader has been chosen because they are essentially weak. You can tell who we send. We send you our very best. Martin Luther King was our very best. Frederick Douglass was our very best. Sojourner Truth, our very best. Harriet Tubman, our very best. Clarence Thomas? Huh? No. And they're not the people we even speak of into eternity, Mark. We just... No.
Yeah, and I would say this, and this feels really weird to be saying something in Clarence Thomas's defense.
Oh!
And that is that white supremacy, apparently impacted him.
Absolutely.
In an extremely unique and very serious way.
Yeah.
I think you made reference earlier to his self-loathing.
Yeah.
And to the extent that somehow he internalized white supremacy, in a way that caused him to react in this way with, such a vicious hatred for his own.
Yeah.
Is something that is very unusual. We all are impacted by white supremacy on some level, but for him, and I don't know what exacerbated it. I don't know if it's coming up.
Well, colorism. I say colorism because he's, I think that he has an issue with being very dark. I mean, look, let's be honest. This is real. I mean, if Cher said that she felt like she was the odd person out in her family, because she did not have blonde hair and blue eyes like her mother and sister. Because her mother and sister are certifiably blonde, blue-eyed women. She said, I felt like the stepchild. And she said it was an awful feeling growing up. You can imagine in the 40s being very dark, which she is. You know, and I think all of that happens. But you know what, in furtherance of your point, you remember the great Percy Sutton, the former president of the borough of Manhattan. And enough people don't know about this great man. He ended up building the biggest radio network in the history of Black America. And in fact, the number one radio station in the United States, WBLS, was the station that he owned. He brought us Frankie Crocker and Wendy Williams and all these other just great programming. And there was so much that he did. He owned Queen's Cable station. He was just a brilliant businessman, a huge, a real powerhouse, not just in New York, but quietly throughout the country. I remember when David Dinkins was running to be mayor of New York. Now, basically, that office was handed to him because Reverend Jackson had won New York City convincingly during the primary. So the thousands, the tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of voters that needed to be registered, the Jackson campaign had registered. And the coalition that needed to be built had already been built. All he needed to do, and in fact, because we lost the state and won the city, we said, we're coming for you, Ed Koch. We're coming for that seat. That was the refrain coming out of the primary that night. And Dave Dinkins, God bless his heart, through a series of just errors. He almost lost the race. And I remember going by Mr. Sutton's office one day, and I was living in New York at the time, and I used to go see him all the time. I had the blessing of being able to, of knowing him. And it had gotten so bad that a stock transfer, he owned stock in one of Mr. Sutton's stations, which on paper was worth a lot of money. But because of some handwritten transfer, they made Mr. Sutton open up all of his books, which you never want to do in business, particularly in radio. And it was a mess for him. It gave him and his whole company exposure. It was awful. And I was furious, and a lot of people were. And he stopped me. And he said this to me, Aaron and Mark. He said, you know, Dave is my friend and I love him, and I'm going to try and help him, even though he had imperiled him. He said, remember this, baby. Be angrier with a system that frightens us than with the person who is frightened. Which is essentially what you're saying, Mark. He said, don't get angry with us. Get angry with the system. And he said, and let that make you fight it. You there, Mark?
It needs to be fought. It needs to be fought.
Every day.
It really does.
Every day. Every day. Every day. You got to fight it. You got to fight it. This supremacist system, you got to fight it. You got to fight it every single day. And this cannot continue. It can't continue. And we have had coups before. So don't act like what happened with President Trump is new. It's not new. You didn't get upset in 2004. You didn't get upset in 2000. You still don't ask enough questions about President Kennedy. You need to know that. My mother said everything came apart after John Kennedy was killed in the middle of the street because you knew this wasn't right. Dr. King even said after John F. Kennedy was killed, he said, I'm not going to make it through the decade. I won't make it through the decade. Please, the mainstream media loved the corporate media, I misspoke. The corporate media loved Biden until he came out of Afghanistan. Unplugging all those contracts. Not that that's what he really wanted to do. I don't know. But they told him he had to go. Remember, he was trying to stay a few more extra days. And the Afghan government said, no, you better leave by the 31st of August. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem. We didn't just walk away. We had to go. And we left stuff behind, honey. Because we had to leave. They told us, you got to get out of here. I don't know where you're going, but you're getting out of here. We even left these people behind. Remember the Afghan the people who've been helping the Americans were holding on to the plane wing as if they were going to get in the plane. They didn't want to be left behind. Come on, everybody. You got to go up in your politics and look at who we are, all the governments that we have overthrown, the subversions of the wills of people, the dreams that we have broken. Come on. We got to do right. We got to do right. And you know what? Remember the color purple, Aaron and Mark? Seeley said, until you do right by me, everything you do gonna crumble. Until you do right by the people you have wronged, everything you do, everything you think about is not going to come to the best fruition. It won't. Now it's time for America to go from being a child to being a toddler. I mean, a newborn to being a toddler, to being a child, to being a teenager, to being a full-grown member of the world body of nations. You got to be grown. God gave us all this privilege from sea to shining sea. How many countries are this prosperous? How many countries control a whole subcontinent? Most people are, I mean, no one really lives in Canada. This is the United States. All these blessings we have, and you think we're supposed to sit on the blessings? You think we're supposed to be abusive of these blessings, of these gifts? You think we're supposed to abuse people? You got to find every indigenous person you can find and apologize. Find every African descended person and apologize and make it right. Every Asian person who built our railroads and who you excluded and you put in concentration camps, you need to find them and apologize. Today, you need to get right. Every woman's dream you crushed, you need to apologize and get it right. And raising someone else is not going to diminish you. It's not going to diminish white men. It's going to make you big, in fact. Because when you can apologize, when you can make things right, you become a big person. The more you subvert people's dreams, the more you refuse to admit what you have done wrong, the smaller you become, and the smaller this country becomes. Until you do right by me, the people you've done wrong, everything you think about is going to crumble. And when Malcolm X said that, he got killed. Oh, well. Did you really kill him? No, you took his body out, but he's still here. So y'all just do whatever you're going to do. That's how I feel about it. Does anyone else have anything else to say before we go? Aaron? Mark?
I'll just wish everyone a very good weekend and successful commemorations of Juneteenth.
And I wish you the happiest of Father's Day, you wonderful father, you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
I wish you.
Give my Father's Day greetings to your dad.
Thank you. And you know what? He truly has been a daddy to me. He truly, truly, truly. Oh, thank you so much. I have to tell you, I think about it because I was born when my parents were in college. That was a most inconvenient time. But my father calls me every birthday that I have. And he tells me the story of him, you know, I took your mom to the hospital and then I went out and played football. Because, you know, in those days, you didn't go into the room while your wife was having the baby or while the woman was having the baby, in this case, his wife. And bless his heart, he said, oh, and they told me, you know, your wife, Jackie, had the baby. He said, and I ran to the hospital. I was so excited, so excited. He said, and every day has just been a gift. And every day I have felt like I was his gift. And there is no greater gift than a father can give a child to make them feel wanted. For them to feel that they were necessary in their lives. And I tell you, I thank God for that. I'm glad I had that gift. I know so many people haven't had it, but I'm not one of those persons. And I pray that if you are estranged from your father, that for you, you find some reconciliation. You need the peace. It took 2 souls to unite to get you here. I want you to have peace, and I want people to be whole today. But no, love is what has you here because ultimately, God is your parent. Be clear on that. Be clear on that. But just know that you're not an accident. You're supposed to be here. And I wish you a happy Father's Day. And if you are a father and you need to reconcile with your child, please do it. Just do it. Do it. Do it. Yeah. Do it. Do it. Do it. You know, and that's right, D-Way. I look like both my parents. It depends upon the day, which one I favor more. But I thank God for them both because they sacrificed a lot to let me come here, and they let me come here. They did, and I thank God that my grandparents were helpful. But my parents went and got me from my grandparents. They were trying to finish school. You know, because my father said you felt like he said when you become a parent, you know, when your child's not there, you feel like something is missing. Like something is really missing. He said, so we drove and got you and we kept on moving. And we figured it out. So everybody tell your parents you love them. Tell your father you love him. Don't let fathers be the forgotten parent. You know, we blow up Mother's Day and we should. We should blow up Father's Day too. Because our fathers are central to who we are. They are. They are. They are. They are. And I thank God for the father figures in my life, for my Uncle Saint who's gone on to glory, my grandfathers, Reverend Clay Evans. I thank God for them, for always feeling protected, never feeling neglected. Always, always. And I thank God for all of them. And on the other side of heaven, I hope you all hear me now. And I love you, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful holiday. I wish you were here, Mark. We're going to have a good time next week, maybe next year. Aaron, I love you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I'm going to find out exactly what time you need to be there, and we're going to have some fun. I got to figure out what wild color I'm going to wear tomorrow, girl. You have a Father's Day message you want to give? I don't know. I have this like bright green something. Have something red. I'm not wearing black this summer.
I love all of your fashion choices. You always bring something amazing. You're an inspiration in all ways, including in the fashion area, Santita. I always look forward to your.
Okay, I'm gonna put out your Mark. You got to see her as the most glamorous, fabulous witch ever. Remember that in 2019 when we had the party.
do not keep that picture.
No, they were gorgeous. She looks like a model, really. I mean, she looks like a model. We were like, oh no, we're gonna take her picture. I mean, we were like, you do know that this is a Halloween party, not a fashion show. Oh, okay. I just thought I'd let you know. I mean, because you're the most beautiful witch we'd ever seen. Red lips, black outfit, and took the pictures. Oh, I'm gonna send it to you before I post it. Oh, how about that? If you nix it, if you ixnay and say no, I'll send the ones that I have to you. If you nix them, I won't do it. Okay. Oh, they're down in my cache of photos. Yes. Because you remember Mark was still with us. That was one of the last parties he attended.
Yes, that was one of the last parties. Yes.
That's right. So we've been blessed with some wonderful people. I love you, Effie. I want to see you tomorrow at Push, girl. Okay. All right, Jewel, love you, girl. Robert, love you. Andre, want to see you Push. Get on up. If they don't have you working tomorrow, because they always do. Lorraine, you and Mark need to come in. We need to figure out we need to learn how to use Meta, because I don't understand it. I mean, I never understood Facebook. I never understood any of this stuff. And, still don't trust any of it, but, that's neither here nor there. Who am I? I love you all. I cannot wait to be with you. We'll see you on Keep Up Alive also on Sunday, but tomorrow at Rainbow Push, get there at 9. I'm going to find out for you, Aaron, since you're one of the leaders of the conference, what time you need to get there. And I love you, everybody. I cannot wait to see you tomorrow at Rainbow Push. And happy Father's Day to you, if that applies, Michael and Jean. And all the fathers out there. Robert, all of you. Love you, Jean. Just happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. I celebrate Father's Day because I must say, I've had a great father. And I'm about to call him right now, tell him how much I love him. Jesse Jackson's daughter signing off. How about that? You all want to sign off? Mark has a magnificent father. He is still with us, although he is in eternity now. One of our nation's leading educators. I always love that. these Black people in particular who had it as their mission to feed our minds and to make us the best people we could be. Thank God for him today, Mark. Thank God for your father and your fathers in your family who have served us through the military. His father, of course, served us through education. And I love you. Love you, everybody. Mwah. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to see you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow at Rainbow Push. Love you, everybody. Bye-bye.